All right. For those that don't know you, I guess over the last, what was it 5, 6, 7 years,
Yes, it's
we
7 years. I looked at it the
we
other day.
yeah, we've known each other in somewhat similar circles, and yeah, over that time, I'd say I've definitely changed. When you first met me, I was a sole operator, having just moved from somewhere else, and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now,
Look, when we first met, I had hair.
yeah, yeah.
No one's going
I,
to believe that.
it's only just struck me now, like when I say that, legitimately, when we first met, I had just moved from another state, and I started my
That's
back
right.
business from zero.
Yeah.
This is it now, like,
Yeah. Look at it. Yeah.
yeah. So I guess going into a bit more of the detail, you'd always been a massive networker. You'd always gone and definitely connected me to some incredible contacts. And so you just have a wealth of knowledge and seem to know a lot of people. I guess maybe for anyone's listening, just give us a bit of a summary of who you are, where you're up to, what you're doing, and then we'll get into
Okay.
some questions.
Who am I? It's really funny when I answer that, and I was the internal dialogue in my head is that can I encapsulate it in one word or one sentence? And a nickname that I used to have in the corporate world popped to mind. So the who am I, if you want a one word metaphor, I think I'm Maverick. And I don't mean Maverick, the character in the story. I'm a Maverick. Probably always have been. But my who am I? A husband and a father of 4 kids. And then in the business context, or who am I professionally? Interesting sort of a career. I started out in a technical capacity. So I have an engineering and computer science background, automation, robotics, that sort of thing. Very early out of school, out of university, found myself in leadership roles. And so I went back to school and studied business, but also always understood as a leader, there's a big people contingent to what you're thinking and doing. So picked up professional qualifications and neuroscience experts and expertise. I wanted to understand how exceptional performers did what they did and be able to duplicate that. So this weird intersection of the business domain, the technical or technology domain. I'm still very comfortable with science and technology, but a deep understanding of the human domain too, how people know what they know and do what they do. So I had a long corporate career, and that was quite successful. At a very young age, found myself in some senior positions, and really because I was able to build high performing teams. I kind of laugh when I look back on that. I say it so fast, but let me say it again, because I was able to build high performing teams. And really that was, I learned to delegate and get out of their way and remove the obstacles. I got recognition on the basis of what the people that I worked with did. And I think that was why I was successful. At one point in my career, a couple of decades ago, my chairman pulled me aside and said I was a pain in the ass. And the story behind that is, anybody, when the boss says that to you, you ask, "Ooh, what do I have to change?" And the answer basically came back that, in his exact words, I keep asking these penetrating questions that have to be answered, and 9 times out of 10, it's another fornicating transformation project. And he and the board were a bit over it. They wanted me to slow things down. I'm scratching my head going, yeah, but they recruited me to move to a new plateau of performance. And I pulled back and thought, yeah, I've achieved the plateau they want. The team and I can see whole new horizons and want to go further. The
Mm.
board wants to slow it down. And at that point, it was a logical time for me to get my nominated successor in and step myself out. And instead of getting back into a corporate role, I'd done a piece of research then on truly high velocity transformation of organizational performance and culture. And it was one of those things I wanted to test. I'd got my qualification, but I actually wanted to deploy it in the real world and see what happened. And so I
Mm.
convinced a client to give it a go, and I guess the rest is history. That was the foundation of this company. With the first pilot with that client, we did things that they were frankly gobsmacked by, and we thought was, well, that's what we thought we were going to do. And we woke up when we were doing. I woke up. I was the one who was very slow to wake up.
Mm.
When in the review with the senior executive team, they said, "You just don't get it, Geoff." And I said, I don't think I do, because you guys are all emotional about it. And one of them said, you've done a pilot with this 1,000 people now. We want it across the other 30,000 in the organization. And we also want to find out what it's going to cost to stop you working with any of our competitors for the next 3 years. And when they said that, I understood. I said, oh, okay, this is true competitive advantage.
Mm.
And so that's why I formulated the company that I work in now. And for a long time, we've been about transformation, which for me is spelt with all capital letters and usually involves numbers that everyone else believes are totally impossible. How do you take an organization that's worth 35 billion and lift it to 72 billion within 12 months? Those sorts of crazy outcomes. We've done it time and time again, and we love doing it. So that's who I am when I say maverick, the guy who has a different map of what's possible,
Mm.
and then goes out and wants to make it happen. And thinks mostly what stops it happening is the organizational systems and processes, not the people who work in the organization. The technology and the people can do it and are willing to it. Yeah, I have this experience where a genuine belief that people are far more capable of dealing with change and making it happen if you set things up the right way. There you
Yeah, I
go.
think
Long answer.
no, perfectly fine. No, I think like similar, we do a lot of the implementation side, and it's just that continuous improvement. So I think there's a lot of change over a period of time,
Yeah.
but they're like change becomes normal because there's always something little new that just makes
Yeah.
it better, faster, quicker, and then people get interested.
That's
Yeah.
it. And I remember having a conversation. Now, admittedly, when I talk about this, you've got to imagine I'm surrounded by a team of people who are a lot smarter than me and go and do things. And one of our clients, it was about 10 years ago now, but I remember saying to them, guys, all you have to do is just find 1% per day.
Yeah.
If you can find 1% across a day, 220 working days, that's a big deal. And that client, they seem to embrace it, but they didn't do 1% per day. Over 18 months, they grew their business by 1,543%. And that's 15 times.
Like in a small business, that could
300
be
working days they could work. These guys were pretty much doing several percentage clicks per day.
in a small business, like you
Mm.
could see that because they need to do big jumps, but in a massive business,
This
then
was in a big business. Yeah, it was
yeah,
global.
that's like turning a freight tanker in the middle of the in the
Yeah,
ocean on a dime, pretty much.
it is. Yeah. And that's what I mean by maverick. I'm the guy who thinks we can figure out how to do that. Mm.
Yeah. So I guess you've got the satellites and pipes and remediating and mining there. Do you want to just give a
Yeah.
summary about what you're working on now?
Yeah. Originally, we started out doing work, the sort of thing I was describing, with organizations across a number of verticals. So we worked in utilities and we worked in finance, and mining was one of the ones that we got in the early days. And we just kept having success with them and started a love affair with the resources sector, to the point where ultimately we let all of our other verticals go and we've just focused there because we have this vision about making a big difference. And if you think about mining, oil and gas or energy, that includes hydrogen and water, those resources that we work with. They have a life cycle that's explore or discover, operate or extract, and then remediate, clean up. And we started out with good capacity in that operate, and then along the way realized that they had some challenges in the other two phases of their life cycle. So we found some extraordinary partners, and we've extended our capacity to address those two. And in the exploration function, the way I talk about it is, if you think about their traditional model, anyone in the audience who's associated with the resources sector will know this. But for them, exploration it's a 10 or 15-year cycle. The average spend is 200 million. If you're doing it on what is it? They say the smell of an oily rag, it's 20 million, and sometimes it's a lot more. And the kicker is the success rate's 5, maybe 10%. It's like, my money's tied up forever. The success rates, in technical terms, business language, it's crap. But of course, when you get an outcome, the reward is so profound that it makes those sort of speculative ventures worthwhile. We bring a technology where our whole piece in the exploration it's electromagnetic technology. It takes 4 months to do a whole set of steps, but essentially after 8 weeks, we can tell you with no false positives, no false negatives, absolute certainty, this is the resource you have, this is where it is, and it's economically viable, which is unheard of. Yeah, most of the electromagnetic technology says the geology's there, the changes in density and blah, blah, blah. It looks good. Go drill it, see what's there. We say, no, this is what's there. It's gold. It's copper. You've got 4 types of copper in this body or whatever. It's profoundly disruptive. It changes their exploration cycle to 1 to 2 years, cuts their costs by about 80%, and the success rate is about 10 times higher. You can guess that with that, it's a scaling business. But it's like, people ask me why at my age, because I'm in my 60s, why am I doing this? I should be thinking about retirement. That's the last thing on my mind. We live in a world where we've got developing countries who want to join the developed world. They want infrastructure, they want buildings, they need minerals, they need steel to construct stuff. They need the copper, and they need all these minerals for the electrification. And then we've got a world that's trying to electrify, as in change the way we do transport. So the mining industry has this massive goal in front of us. It's frankly, there's just on the 6 critical minerals associated with electrification and batteries, there's a forecast that by 2050 we need to get it to about 15.7 trillion per annum. The size of the business and all the forecasts, we might get 5. And it's hundreds of mines that have to come on each year to feed the metals that are needed to make that transition. Without technology, it becomes possible. Without our technology, it's impossible, no matter how much money they throw at it. And that's become our mission is, wow, this is, and it's, you can see it in the organization. Everyone's bought into this is legacy stuff, Geoff. We're going to make a difference to the world. Yeah, and that part of our business, that's what drives us. And then what do we do in the operational phase? We're changing the way they operate, allowing them to be safer, more productive, more environmental. And on the back end, we take our toxic waste and turn it into a green fertilizer that is better than the chemical stuff. It lifts crop yields by 70 to 300%. So you can guess why we get passionate about what we do. It's immensely rewarding and a lot of fun to be able to solve wicked problems for the resources sector.
Well, to get from, I guess, someone working in a job to someone running a business like that, there's a whole bunch of series of steps and challenges along the way. What would you say has been something that's helped you get through that?
My journey has not been a straight line. I think it's been a series of intentional detours and unexpected opportunities, as it is with most people. But I think partly what drives that is that foundational curiosity in terms of how things work, how value's created. And I started in a technical role and then quickly realized, the what is half the equation. The how, the why, these things, understanding business and people and they became equally compelling for me. So I actively sought out roles and opportunities that exposed me to all those different facets. I think, maybe I should have started by saying, because just as I think about this, there's a foundation for everything, which when you ask me, who am I started talking about family, didn't I? Wife and parents are my foundation. And I think they stopped me from sinking into shifting sands. There's no other way to describe it. They're still foundation in my life. And then from that, the critical accelerants, mentors. From there, I said at a young age, I wound up in a leadership role. And I remember at that time saying to the organization, what are you thinking? I'm 22, fresh out of school. Why are you putting me in a leadership role? And I said, I still want to give it a shot if you will help me find a mentor. I need a mentor because I'm just a kid. And I was so lucky the CEO of the organization, for whatever reason, had decided that I was a potential and he took me on. And so mentors saved me from reinventing the wheel. And at every pivot and every challenge, I think in my life with that insatiable curiosity was thinking of it as a masterclass. I was very comfortable getting outside the comfort zone, which is a funny thing to say when you think about the language I just used. It's it was about shifting from a mindset of know it all to learn it all. And that continuous evolution fueled by curiosity and a healthy dose of humility. When I said earlier, I'm surrounded by smart people. Truly, I am. I'm the dumbest guy in the room in this company. And they propelled me to where I am today. And behind all of that, probably two questions I hold in my head, which have always opened me to how I started and wound up here. One is this question of what next? So never being complacent about, I think it was Churchill who said something along the lines of success is not permanent, failure is not permanent. It's, yeah, there's the Japanese say, fall down 7 times, get up 8. It was that sort of thinking. And so never being complacent. I remember one of my early mentors said to me, you have this odd mindset where he said, you set yourself goals. And then even before you get the goal, and it's obvious you're going to get it, you move the goalposts. And he said, you've got to stop every now and then, Geoff. Turn and look around and see how far you've come. Celebrate the success and then move the goalpost, which was a sage piece of advice because I could see the horizon. And the metaphor of the horizon, you run towards it, but you never get there. So I think there's been a little bit of that I've always been comfortable, get to the top of one mountain, and all that does is give me a better view of the next one. I opened that answer by saying some intentional detours and a lot of unexpected opportunities. But yeah, when I think about what we do now, how did I get involved in the exploration stuff? I saw there was a wicked problem and I thought 21st century, there must be a solution. Before I go and do the R&D and figure out whether we're going to develop this ourselves, let's go and find out what exists in the world. And sure enough, it was, and it was a best kept secret.
Yeah.
I was like, man, and these guys are fantastic. I want to work with them. And they are. They're some of the best partners I've worked with in my career. I love them as people, and I use the word love intentionally, and I truly enjoy their professional capability and competence. I really enjoy working with them, and they lift me to new levels all the time. And it's, how did I get the joy of working with people like that? I just went looking.
I think sometimes it's really hard to find a good partner. I've had a couple,
Oh, yeah.
gone through a couple to find the one that I'm working with now.
Yeah.
And like we go on family holidays together, we hang
Yeah.
out. We can hang out for weeks and not get bored. Like you're just comfortable
Yeah.
in each other's space. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes you've got founders that are a little bit more like about the mission, but then you've got other founders
Yeah.
that like personally connect with as well.
Oh, yeah.
How have your relationships been usable to you in your sort of
Oh,
growth?
incredibly. I was going to add to that story that I was just telling. How
Mm,
did I find the partners that we work with? And I'll just
mm.
take as an example the ones that we work with in the
Yeah, sure.
exploration function.
Yeah.
It's my professional network that connected me to them.
Mm,
I'm out there talking to people, doing research and approaching people I don't know, but I'm talking to my professional network. I'm looking for this. Anyone know anything like that?
mm,
One of my professional networks said, you need to talk to these guys. And yeah, so thank you very much. And there are two names in my head who pointed me there. And are these people in my backyard? No, San Diego, USA. So yeah, you're right. The network has made a significant contribution to my capacity to do the things that we do. And along the way, I've had some fall down 7 times, get up 8 experiences too. That, in fact, I think they've been my best teachers. I know that it's a weird thing to say. Well, it's not
mm.
weird. You hear it a lot. I don't mean to be complacent when I say it, but sometimes I think that there's this, the deepest are from failing, not necessarily from succeeding. And as a guy who has a professional interest in human beings and how we learn. And in
Mm,
fact, some of our work is entirely around accelerated learning. That's what drives
mm,
high-speed change in organizations. So it's something I study and practice. One of the things that's come out of the research field in cognitive science is that this thing above the shoulders, inside the skull and behind the eyes, it's actually designed to learn through trial and error.
mm.
That's the fastest way it learns, which is really funny because it's not the way we teach kids in school.
Yeah.
And with the technology that we've got at our fingertips, AI and virtual worlds and things like that, we can actually use that in school, but it's thousands of times faster. When we use that sort of approach in some of the virtual world platforms, we can measure that in 4 to 8 hours in a simulation, they clock up the equivalent of 2 to 4 years of real world learning. It's that massive, but they
Mhm.
do it by screwing up. Well, the nice
Yes.
thing in a virtual world is you screw up and the business can break or the people can die in a game or in a
Yeah.
simulation. If it's a game, the continent sinks into the ocean, but our simulations tend to be more business oriented. But you can really mess up. And you can mess up in these games at the human level too, because the AI, everything in the simulation's intelligent. And you have
Mm.
AI there. And if you're not communicating effectively as a leader with the AI avatars in there, you'll be picking up leadership skills. You'll be getting instant feedback that you screwed up. You
Mm.
asked the wrong question or you said the wrong thing. And what happens is they learn real fast by trial and error.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm thinking back, if I've always known what I'm doing, good grief, no. But not afraid of screwing up, fail fast, learn,
Was
fail fail fast, fail cheap, and then try again. Yeah.
a good explanation I heard the other day was like you're walking through a fog and you're climbing a mountain during a fog, and so you
Yeah,
take 3 steps and the next 3 steps become revealed to you, and you take 3 steps and the next 3 steps become revealed,
that's it.
and you
Yeah,
and you might find a false peak and you get there and you realize you're not at
yeah,
the top, and so you have to
yeah.
go back and then you go around and you keep going. Yeah.
It's like it's cliche what we're saying,
Mm.
but for your audience, failure is a far better teacher than success. And success has got its place because you do
Mm.
something and it works, keep doing it. But also understand when it stops working. Because we live in a
Yes.
world where things are changing so fast that what you're doing now that works, it could be as fast as tomorrow, but hopefully you'll get a year out of it or two before you need to change. And
I,
there's that other piece of, I really get your metaphor of climbing the mountain in the fog
I,
bank. And
mm.
it's every now and then, can I find somewhere where I can jump up and my head gets above the cloud and I can see, yeah, there's where I'm going. And then I'm back down and I'm doing my 3 steps at a time. There's that. I think there's a little bit of that in that story I was telling about the mentor or told me every now and then, Geoff, stop, turn around.
Yes.
Yeah, look how far you come. In a cloud bank, it's hard to do that. But there's
But
the opposite of that is look where you're going. And if you can't see, when you can't see, man, oh man, my network. I go to my network. And
mm,
I can't see. I'm not the crystal ball. I'm still learning. I'm learning so much. But when I'm in that cloud bank, my network become a
mm,
really valuable source because
resource.
sometimes they're further up the mountain. And I'll
I
take a
think
phone call and tell you how to get there.
I think just talking on that, like that failure thing, I tend to take action on anything as fast as possible because while someone else is planning it, getting into a meeting, I've tried it, failed, and found a better way, or I found 3 different ways to do the same thing. Yeah, I think that sometimes maybe people don't go and bet the house at the casino, but
Oh,
small
yeah.
improvements, small bets, small
And
changes. Be a
there's
scientist.
a yeah, and there's this piece. So you've got a military background, so you're like the mining guys. You've lived and worked in what I call high risk context. Yeah, like it's like one of the guys I worked with in my corporate career, he was always so calm.
Yeah.
And one day he was asked, why is he so calm when we're in the middle of the crisis? And he says, guys, don't you remember what I used to do? And it was, he worked in Navy bomb disposal, or, ordnance disposal. So the guy's underwater in a really hazardous situation, working with something that you screw up. And if the water doesn't kill you, the bomb will. In context, he used to say, in context where there's really high risk, we rehearse it, we practice it, we prepare the life out of it. But he said, in context where screwing up is not much of a deal, you can recover from it. He says sometimes in those contexts, you can go in and say, I'm going into something that's predictably unpredictable. But the worst possible outcome is something I can recover from. So let's in real time do trial and error.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It
You
was about
don't
like.
have to. He's saying, yeah, those things don't.
Mm.
It's it's Steve Jobs talks about signal and noise.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah. Steve, for those in your audience who haven't heard that line of his, he says, in any day, it's a time management thing he's talking about, but you can generalize it further. And he said, in
Mm,
any day, you might have 20 tasks. And he said, there are three that are signal. And he said, those three are the things that are the most critical things that will make the most impactful difference to the short term, medium term, and long term goals you've got. Their
mm,
signal. Everything
yeah,
else in the day is noise. And he
yeah,
said, your task is to avoid the noise and do the signal. And you think about that's what Terry was the name of the guy I worked with. And Terry used to say the signal is the stuff where you probably do have to rehearse and we do have to plan and we do have to strategize and prepare for it before we go into the meeting or before we take action and do it. But in
yeah.
the context where it's not signal and there's not a major
Mm,
consequence, then give it the time and attention that it warrants and allow for the fact that, yeah, just as you do in a conversation with a person, you go in and you have an outcome in mind, but you're
mm.
going, human beings are predictably unpredictable. So all I can do is predict that they'll respond in an unpredictable way to what I'm saying and doing. My
Well,
task is to have the fleetness of foot
mm,
to respond in a useful way to that. Trial and error in
well,
real time.
I think like about containerizing risk in your EOD example, that's
Yeah,
the explosive ordnance detection and
yeah,
or
yeah.
yeah,
And
right. So the
disarming.
the, the
Yeah,
the diver that you're talking about. So what he would do is he'd go down and he goes, I know I've got this much oxygen, I need to be down there for this amount of time, and I
yeah,
need safety stops on the way back. So as long as you know that, you're fine. Then when you
yeah,
get down there, you go, the bomb or the explosive device, I know that if I treat it this way, it's a risk. So I have to treat it this way, wait
yeah,
certain times. Then you lay the
yeah,
charge next to it. Then you light it, you move back to a safety radius, and then you let
yeah.
it do its thing, and then you go back. And like these sorts
They
of
have
measures
systems and steps, which is the other thing.
reduce the
Yeah,
risk
yeah.
to a known
And
entity or a known
yeah,
variable. Yeah.
process is critical. Yeah. And
Mm.
then even when we do that, your military experience would probably affirm this. What is it? No, none of the best laid battle plans survive contact with the enemy. But
Yeah.
but the fact that you've rehearsed every contingency does survive, because I don't necessarily buy into that, because you
Mm.
guys have rehearsed everything because the risk
Mm.
is so high. And so yeah, it doesn't necessarily step by step go the way you would expect it, but everything that is happening to some extent you've thought through, and so it's predictable. If that happened, I know how to respond, and you respond real fast. You're not thinking in real time. Oh, what do I do here? You haven't
Yeah,
got
it
time
becomes more
dodging
instinctive.
bullets. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. What are some of the more, just delving a little bit more into network and
yeah.
like really activating the connections that you have? You said you go back to the network. Do you want to just give us a little bit of commentary on how you do that and where like maybe it going wrong or it going right?
I think that it's a two-way street. I've and still do envisage my network as, first and foremost, they're a group of really extraordinary people. I That's my map of the world. People are extraordinary and a lot more resourceful than we give them credit for. But so as human beings, I value them. So that there's this know and like piece that's a big chunk of it. But then as I trust their knowledge and expertise, I try to behave in the same way with them. So I try to make myself, I be myself, but not for all people am I a likable individual. I am a bit of a maverick. Truly, I'm the bastard who always asks questions that have to be answered, and it's not always comfortable answering them. But I try to be an honourable and worthy member of their network, so someone who they do and trust, and to bring value to them. Actually, that's my starting point when I think about it. I've waffled a bit to get there. But yeah, it is. It's how I operate with my network. My starting point is, yes, it's they're human beings and I like them. And then the next piece is, what value can I bring for them? And in my day to day, there's a lot of stuff comes across my radar or my desk. Opportunities come my way that are not for me, but they're totally for my professional network. And I love when those things come my way. It's like on the phone or on the email, hey, Avon, yeah, this one's for you. You need to talk to this guy. And it would be fair to say that I do that several times every day. And when I say several times, it's probably less than 10, but it's more than three. If I think about yesterday, I did 7 introductions. And of those 7, I think 5 will probably transact business.
Yep.
So I've never seen it be less than 3 a day. And I love doing that. But I think because I'm constantly striving to bring a meaningful friendship to the network and a meaningful business relationship to the network,
Mm.
the guy who studies psychology is
Mm.
about to say, I never set out to do it, but I understand it creates this reciprocal obligation. If your audience have ever heard of a guy called Robert Cialdini, he's an American psychologist who's written a couple of books. If you haven't come across them, do go read them. They're an easy read. But
The
he talks
foundation
about
of most
reciprocal
modern
obligation.
marketing textbooks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I do understand that happens, but it's not what I set out to do. And what happens as a consequence of that is that when I need something, I know who to go to in my network. And when I go to them, they're only too grateful and willing to help me.
Mm.
They'll help me on a friendship basis, but they'll help me because they know I'm always striving to help them. There's a piece, and you and I have talked about this before, side because you're on the side on my screen, but from the early days, it was one of the things I understood about the way you network too. You're always looking to create value for the members of your network. It's the same thing you do with your customers. You're always trying to find value for your customers or create it.
Mm.
It's a simple thing to do. And if you let go of I'm trying to extract value from my network versus and say, no, how do I create value from my network? It comes back tenfold. And yeah, if I can just talk numbers, I don't want to scare your audience, but if I talk about that exploration stuff, how did I get involved with that? Because of my network. All right, I was looking, but it was my network who got me there. I'm so
Mm.
grateful. And if any of them hear this, they'll come back to me. So yeah, pay us for that. We had a meeting with some of the team this week, and they were concerned because that there was a potential reduction in exploration going on amongst some of the resources sector. And this is not all of them, but this is just one part of the sector. And the reduction was the expectation was they should be spending 18 trillion and they were going to pull it back to 14.9. And our guys would
Mm.
say, oh, a big reduction in spending, it's going to hurt us. I started laughing and I said, guys, do you really care? Let's just say we get 1% of that. Do you really care if we pull in 150 billion or 180 billion? What difference does it make to us?
Mm.
Yeah. And that's the size of the business that I'm in. And you know, and where are we heading? We will do the 9 figures this year. We will, within 5 years, be doing more, a lot more. I keep talking about heading towards the $10 billion mark, but that comment that I made says
Mm.
we have the potential to go so much further. How do I
Mm.
have the sheer luck and gift of being involved in a business that can be that big? And one that I
Mm.
love doing because I see it as a legacy. Thank
Mm.
you, my professional network. That's
Mm.
how. And guys, I would not be here. I wouldn't have found this without them. Oh, maybe I would because I'm a persistent bugger. But I got
A lot easier.
but I got the introduction to the people who had the technology through my network. So I came in with trust by proxy. I wasn't this mad cold caller. Built the relationship with them, and then wound up negotiating to be their global agent and representative. And in fact, now we do the bulk of their marketing and sales, and they do the delivery. So we collaborate a bit on the delivery. But it's yeah, and then how about yeah. God, I lose count, but last time I got 120 salespeople just involved in looking after that around the world. Right. Thank you. I feel I made the comment before, humble. I do feel humble. How do I have the luck? Not the luck, it's the people I'm surrounded with. Extraordinary,
Well,
generous, gifted network.
I know what some people are going to say. They're going to say it's a lot of work and there's too many
Oh,
people
it
to
is
talk
work.
to.
I work hard, but it doesn't feel
Yes.
like hard, right? I enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah, why do I work? Yeah, because it's a global business. So why am I working at 1 a.m. in the morning? Because I love it, and because I live in
But,
the wrong time zone.
but how do you build leverage in that process?
Actually, I'm going to ask because I have a hallucination by what you mean. So I'm going to, what are you meaning when you say build leverage? And I think I'm on the right tack, but I'm going to ask, qualify for me.
I guess building a network of people who are also giving you the ability to scale your network.
Yes, that is what I thought. Okay. It's all right. I wasn't going to, because there's two parts to my answer. And one part is there's a shared history that Avon and Geoff have here where historically we've been involved in learning how to do that. There's an element of, as my professional network, learn the value of the relationship. I do ask them, how are you building your professional network? How are you bringing them value? And how do you grow it? And so there is an element sometimes of me coaching them on how they can grow their network. And I'm earnest when I give this answer. It's not just because Avon asked the question. As early as like Monday this week, I was having a 1.5 hour conversation with one of my team about doing that and coaching them on that. And it's been really interesting because we've had almost daily conversations since about how they're taking that and implementing it. If I can go a step further, how are we growing our business so fast and so big? I can tell you, as a guy who's tried direct sales, cold calling, advertising, all that sort of stuff, and we do some of that still. Our business model, our sales and marketing function is based on network. Professional network is how we market. And there are a couple of reasons for that, but one is, yes, we're a disruptive technology. So immediately we sound too good to be true. So smoke and mirrors are the first thing that come to mind. And so you're going to a skeptical audience because we sound too good to be true or a little bit scary. We're disruptive. It's hard to get in the door with that. And when you try to explain the science, it's just people go, it's impossible. Einstein said in 1938, was it? Nuclear energy, why? That would involve being able to split the atom at will. We'll never have it. It was X years later we had it. Wasn't that many years later. And you know, there are so many famous individuals who said this was impossible, only to realize that it happened a few years before, or 3 years later it did happen. Heavier than air flying machines and things like that. But we do encounter the impossible, and it's the only way we've found to get around that is to get an introduction. And we come in through their professional network, someone they know and trust who introduces us. It's a big deal. It's transformed our marketing to, we have about a 70% success rate on getting in the door and then getting somewhere. Sorry, that's just my phone reminding me of what I've got to do in 5 minutes. And so we actually have a very high success rate on our marketing and sales because in systematically in our organization, that's how we're going to market with these disruptive technologies. And in my professional network, I met a guy, and I don't mind saying his name, you can look him up. I'll give him a plug now. His name is Nathan Keithman. He's based out of the US. And he's a long-term professional marketer with quite a track record. And I was talking to him recently, and he's used to the cold contacting and using LinkedIn, and he ran businesses and did great things for his business clients. But recently he shifted to this model of getting an initial network of about 25 people who are connected to the industry that's your target, and then teaching them to build their network and using the network as the means to market to your target. And he tells the story of what got him thinking that way and involved in doing that was he met the chief marketing officer of its DocuSign. And if you look it up, he tells me the story, DocuSign scaled from nothing to a billion unicorn in a year or so. And the chief marketing officer was the guy who drove it. And when he asked the CMO, how'd you do it? What'd you do with the sales and marketing team? He said, oh, network. We decided that, and he said, it's not multi-level marketing. He said, and the very model or leverage that you're talking about is you find 5 people, teach them to find 5 people and have them duplicate it and find 5. Suddenly you've got a big network. And even if each of them only gives you 1 or 2 leads a year, but typically what you get is a couple a quarter, you've got more. For us, it's interesting. We're experiencing that at the moment where we're actually having to grow some of our resources just to cope with the sheer volume of opportunities that are coming our way. It's It gets interesting when you're trying to get out 13 multi-million-dollar proposals in 1 week.
Yeah.
And then you've got to
Yeah.
do that again next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's network.
Yeah.
How do
Like
we
people are,
model? It's a
yeah,
mathematical model.
people are like gun shy on the all the ads that come in on social media and the impersonal outreaches that are like, hey, buy my stuff. And
Yeah.
people don't like that. They switch off, but they're more ready to listen to someone that they know.
Yeah.
And you struck on it's not MLM, it's MLN. So not multi-level
Yeah.
marketing, but multi-level networking. And
Correct.
the value of the network is you don't have to do necessarily like a commission structure. You don't, it's
Yeah.
not, the problem with MLM is that when people, it becomes pyramid scheme where someone recruits
Yeah.
someone, and
Some of
then
this. Yeah. And there's
people down the line earn money for no reason. And there's not
yeah.
actually any product being sold. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
When
But
you're
it's
networking, you're saying here is a valuable connection that I think you would find useful, and then they
yeah.
do it back the other way, and you
Yeah.
both
And that's it. It's a two-way thing. As you
yeah.
build that network, we're doing it two ways.
I was saying to you the other day, like even having known you, what's it, 7 or 8 years, like the amount of times we've connected and you've put me onto people, only now in later in our relationship, I feel that I'm actually pulling my weight in the
Oh, you
connections that
are.
I bring.
You are. Thank
And
you.
so
I
I
appreciate
try
it.
to create a lot of, try to find people that actively feel like I have to go and find people for Geoff because Geoff's been so good to me. And like you could, if you have that reciprocity,
I
because you
know it.
talked about that
Yeah.
before,
That's it.
you're going to work so much harder for that, for each other. And you're
Yeah.
going to end up both better off anyway, because then that's a cycle that just
That's
keeps
it. It
building.
is. You constantly do stuff for your network, it comes back.
Yeah.
And see, in our organization, as I said, we've got about 120 people in the sales force, but
Yeah.
we've got them doing that as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is driving an extraordinary growth. Yeah.
Mm.
The business has always been interesting because we worked with big corporations, but what's going on now? I think we're probably going to exceed all of our goals. There's no
Uh,
probably about it. But that's
uh,
not the point.
uh,
The financial ones are just markers along the way. And
mm,
like Simon Sinek, he talks about the infinite game. What are we in business for? To survive. To win game after game is not necessarily what it's about. It's you win some games, you lose some games, but ultimately we
mm,
want to be here and we want to leave a legacy. We
yeah.
want to make a difference.
Mm.
We want to leave the world better than we found it. I don't know if that's a Boy Scout thing or what, but I think probably learned that as a kid from my grandparents and parents and
Mm.
friends of the Scouts.
Well,
It's a funny business model, but it works. I
I
think
think
because we're human. Yeah.
yeah, I think like all the things we've talked about today, going you less, but we've both come from nothing, created something
Oh,
big.
yeah. Came from nothing. Regular middle class guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and like making something pretty decent, and both
Mm,
relying on strong networks to do, and building that leverage and that power into that network.
yeah.
So I think it's been really good to have you along today. I
Thank
think
you.
to just try to stay on time for you and make sure everything runs smoothly. But yeah, look, if anybody's watching, thank you very much for coming along and listening to what we've been talking about. I think there's some real deep value that people often miss. Everybody's all about the hustle and the grind and how do I make more sales. And you talked about it before with to switch from extracting value to building
Deliver
shared
value.
value. Yeah.
And it's a longer term thing. What you're doing with your network is so sometimes the thing to remember is that it can be a long term gain. Might give, doesn't matter. Keep doing it. Because
Mm,
when it comes back, it's gobsmacking how generous it is. I don't know whether it's
mm,
the rule of humans or the universe or what, but I'm a
mm,
guy who I repeat it, I've said it about 3 times, humble, grateful, overwhelmed by the
mm,
generosity of my network and how it's helped me get here.
mm,
So look, thank you for some of those questions were thought provoking for me.
mm.
And it's a privilege. I want to have you in my network and
Likewise.
then for you to prompt me today to reflect a little bit
We've looked back now,
on
so
some of the things some of the insights that I've gained that
now we
I
need to
forget
set the
about.
goalposts a bit further yet again.
Oh yeah, I will. It's just a habit. But it's yeah, you don't want to stagnate.
Yeah.
Stagnation is a form. What do you got in a pond that's stagnant? It's dead. It's not got life in it.
Mm,
Life doesn't stagnate. And we're living creatures, folks. So remember that and evolve, constantly change. It's that, again, the only constant that is, change is the only constant. Some human beings have a little difficulty with that. My invitation to you, if you find that uncomfortable, see what you can do to adapt your mindset that to become change is the rule of the universe, and I like it. What in change can I, another way to think about it, sometimes it's better just to ask yourself a question. What in change can I enjoy? What in change can give me learning? What in change can give me motivation?
Change is as good
There
as
you
a
go.
holiday.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. We go on a holiday. We go somewhere different. We have a great time.
Yeah. All right. That's been great. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch everybody next time.
Safe travels while you're in India. Talk to you soon.